Yeah, you heard me. I never came for 6 entire years. Yes, I watched porn so many times, but never actually quote-unquote pressed the button. And this might sound weird, but the reason for that is, well, I'm Muslim, by the way, and in Islam we believe that anytime someone ejaculates, whether it's from wet dreams, sex, or masturbation, he has to take a specific shower called the ghusl in order to be able to perform the compulsory 5 prayers, which we literally do every single day. But back in the day, I just hated water. I even tried to avoid actual baths. And because of that, I sort of associated masturbation with this fear of having to shower, and the fact that this is already considered a sin made me contemplate how fucking shameful it would feel. And I was actually afraid of having wet dreams themselves, although it's obviously not my fault, it's not a sin, but like they also require the same bath. But anyway, it sounds like I've been practicing what they call semen retention for all this time, and I wanted to talk about my experience with it. Before that though, I need to address a bunch of misconceptions about this topic, especially since the NoFap movement or whatever became popular over the years. Although these people wanted to help those struggling with porn and constant masturbation, they mostly tend to have some very unrealistic expectations. Like they're so hyped on their streaks that they say if you don't masturbate for X days, you'll become this absolute giga chad and your testosterone will just skyrocket or whatever.
Adonis.
But in reality, it's mostly just a placebo effect thing. Like, they just become so fixated on their streaks, thinking they're doing something important when it should be just something you quit cold turkey and stop thinking about. They believe that if they relapse once, they have to start all over again. But that's not true. It's like you won't get fat just because you skipped working out for a day, I guess. And there are also people who say to keep everything in moderation and masturbate with their hands for like twice a week without porn, claiming that there are a bunch of benefits to masturbating, which is true. However, I still think it's better to just not do it, even though it reduces the risk of prostate cancer by 50%, which is unlikely already, because like cancer is mostly caused by either a bad diet or something like smoking. And you might say that apes masturbate too, but for your information, apes also eat their own poop. So they're not the real role models we're looking for, I guess. The dopamine from sex is meant to motivate you toward reproduction instead of having a passionate relationship with your palm. And most importantly, as C.S. Lewis said, it's basically an escape room for your mind. It's a distraction that usually makes you feel better when you're in a sick society, helping you forget about your problems, but ultimately it keeps you stuck. But what about Warren Buffett? He eats McDonald's every day. Yes, of course, you can achieve something even if you masturbate or, do some whatever escapist activity, but imagine where you could go if you just don't. When you cut off these escapist activities, you kind of start to feel better than anyone else. You have less brain fog, and I've actually quit many of these activities myself, and I just don't want to do them. I have absolutely no desire to engage with them at all. Yes, I do rest. I might watch some shows that one guy recommended to me if they have a message to learn from, but if an activity is based mainly on pure pleasure and there's really no long-term benefit from it, I would just avoid it. I've talked about this in one of my videos, but now let's talk about my experience, which I think it would be obvious to you. Do you really think I look like that testosterone-fueled Adonis, or that girls are chasing me down the street, or that my little friend, quote-unquote, is constantly growing massively just because I am on semen retention or whatever? Of course not. In fact, I experienced having blue balls as an effect of watching porn without ejaculating, which was pretty uncomfortable. You just feel horny all the time, but it moves away like after a few days, especially like when you focus on doing something else, because like it's just blood stuck in the testicles, like because the brain expected me to jack off to the porn that I watched. But I also hate those people on The Wired who claim that you will literally transform into something extraordinary by just not fapping. I mean, there could be some noticeable changes for those who fap like 6 times a day, but it's not going to be as dramatic as they think. Like one study showed that testosterone spiked by 40% for a little while and then goes back to baseline during NoFap. Another study compared testosterone levels of men before and after they spent 3 weeks without masturbating, and you can see there is really no difference. Still, again, I believe it's better for you to just not do this thing, and as a little experiment, just an experiment, see what might happen if you just don't fap for 7 days while focusing on other important stuff. And if you don't know what those are, just get bored so you look inside your head, because your life is not perfect. There are infinitely lots of problems that you have to solve. And if you're otherwise into porn, I made a video about that, which was mainly about CBT. It can help you a little bit, but yeah, that's about it.